Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out the story of life on Mars is weirder than you thought.
If you look at the back of Hunky Dory, you'll see next to Life on Mars it says inspired by Frankie, referencing the song My Way by Frank Sinatra. But the story of Life on Mars is much weirder than just being inspired by that song. It was 1967, and David Bowie's publishing office received a tape of Comme d'habitude, the original French version of My Way. Bowie's publisher was in the office and was asked if he knew someone who could write English lyrics to the French song.
Hang on, My Way was French first? I didn't know that. I thought that was a Frank Sinatra original. Who's this person? Claude Francois. Comme d'habitude. Alright. Show me on Apple Music. Comme d'habitude. What's his name again? I already forgot it. Claude Francois. That's... I think the only thing that would make it more French is if it was Pierre Francois. Or Frank Francois. Claude Francois. Oh, it's his top song. It's My Way. C'est toi, le vent est toi. Je m'attends à toi. Comme d'habitude. Comment? Alright, that's enough of that crap. I didn't know this was a cover. Alright. Y'all, just since I've already stopped it, I only like 2 or 3 David Bowie songs. Don't hate me, please. Don't hate me. You can hate me if you want. I don't care. Actually, no, I do want. Space Odyssey, Changes, and there's one more. Something about I'm Afraid of Americans. Not familiar with Life on Mars. I feel like I've heard it, but I don't know it. Not a big fan of David Bowie. I wanna be. Woo me, David. Seduce me.
Bowie's publisher was in the office and was asked if he knew someone who could write English lyrics to the French song, and he suggested a young David Bowie. Bowie did in fact provide the first English lyrics.
Wait, what? Okay, I don't think I absorbed what was going on here. I gotta hear that again.
Inspired by that song. But the story of Life on Mars is much weirder than just being inspired by that song. It was 1967, and David Bowie's publishing office received a tape of Comme d'habitude, the original French version of My Way. Bowie's publisher was in the office and was asked if he knew someone who could write English lyrics to the French song, and he suggested a young David Bowie.
Okay. So his publisher said, hey, I think David speaks French.
Bowie did in fact provide the first English lyrics.
That's
and
amazing.
Wrote a song he called Even a Fool Learns to Love. If you listen carefully to the demo he recorded, you can hear the French lyrics underneath.
There was a time, the laughing time, he took his heart to every party.
That made me remember why I don't really like David Bowie. Don't hate me. He does too much vibrato. There was a time. But, you know, some people like that.
His heart to every party.
David Bowie hadn't yet had the commercial breakthrough we all know about today, and so in the early part of his career, it would have been a really big deal to have written this song.
And when you hear the demo versions of this that Bowie recorded, simply by singing over the original French recording of it, you can hear a real passion in his voice. There's a palpable sense that Bowie really wanted this gig.
So yes, David Bowie was the first person to write an English version of what would become My Way.
That's amazing.
But in the end, the French publisher rejected Bowie's version, and instead the rights to the song went to Paul Anka, who wrote the lyrics to My Way that we all know about today.
Okay.
I thought I'd make a few bob out of it, but I didn't.
Damn.
The next thing I heard, it had been rewritten again by Paul Anka, and it came back as My Way, and Sinatra had done it.
Oh my God. So, they're saying he wrote an English version, but wouldn't it just be a translation? Paul Anka got writing credit for translating it? I'm not understanding. Frank Sinatra's in the Mafia. So, what's Paul Anka's big song? Because he wasn't just a songwriter, right? He was a singer as well. Put your head on my shoulder. Oh. Put your head on my shoulder. Wow, that was bad. But great song, yeah.
My Way
Great
then,
voice.
of course, took on a life of its own, becoming Frank Sinatra's signature song,
Yeah.
reviving his career and providing him with a legacy that still stands today.
Oh, y'all, the whole Frank Sinatra legacy, or his story is so crazy. He was big in like the 40s, 50s. He started going down after Elvis got to the top. Then the 60s came, the Beatles came, Frank was down. He even got desperate and started dressing psychedelic and did some like variety show or something. But then, his record label dropped him. His record label dropped Frank Sinatra. What? So then he went to Columbia Records, I think, and had a whole second wave of a career. He didn't give up. He kept going. I think he's wearing a toupee. It's a good toupee.
I was really pissed off. I thought, it should have been my song, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll write my own version. So it's My Way on Mars.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. In 1967, David Bowie was still a relatively unknown figure.
Okay.
His debut album came out that year, which was considered by many to be a commercial failure because the record label failed to promote it. And his follow-up album, released 2 years later, despite being musically inventive, suffered the same problem with promotion.
Space
But what
Odyssey,
these
really?
early years did give him was this freedom to experiment creatively. One of the interesting things about Bowie was that he wasn't determined to focus solely on the commercial success of his own records.
Kind of trying to be a songwriter, not even a singer particularly, but I was quite happy to write them songs and they would give these songs to different artists. That was the idea anyway. Nothing ever came of it.
But it was during a trip to North America that he became inspired to get back in the studio and to write what would be his fourth album, Hunky Dory.
Which then convinced me that I should get back to what I really like doing, which is being theatrical on stage, but putting on a show.
Even though I'm not a big David Bowie fan, I respect him very much. I think he's a good actor. If you ever saw the Jim Henson movie, The Labyrinth, he plays the villain, and he's actually really good. You can see his ding-dong through his wardrobe, but that's, it's a distraction that in the movie you kind of notice at first, but then you get used to it. We've all seen David Bowie's ding-dong. It's just another ding-dong. It's like a fingerprint, though. They're all a little different, I think. But anyway, this reminded me, yeah, he's really good at being theatrical. He should have just been an actor, right? I mean, music's great. I love music. It's an understatement. But he could have been a really good actor. He was a good actor. He had a more successful acting career than I've ever had. But I wish he did more acting. He's a great villain. He's got the look, that voice, and the confidence. Confidence. I'm getting a stutter.
Back to what I really like doing, which is being theatrical on stage, but putting on a show. I started to try it all over again, and I formed a little band. And I started writing different kinds of numbers.
This trip to North America not only inspired some strange lyrics, but also a new stripped-back style of music. And so, in 1971, David Bowie began writing Life on Mars and recorded a demo of the song with him on piano.
It's a simple but small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mother is yelling no, and her father has asked her to go.
This demo was recorded in the spring of 1971, 4 years after the experience with My Way, and just a few months before Hunky Dory was recorded later that summer. Many of the elements are clearly inspired by My Way. For example, the
Sync
opening
chords.
chord progression is exactly the same. When it came to recording the album, Bowie chose to work with some familiar musicians, most notably, in the case of Life on Mars, Rick Wakeman on piano.
When we came to do Hunky Dory, that was really fascinating because he called me up and said, come around the house, I want to play you some songs. So I went round to his house. He had a beautiful grand piano, and he put a lot of music manuscript paper on there and some pencils and things. He said, I'm going to play some songs and make some notes. And he played me Life on Mars. And I said, you know what, David, that's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. He said, have you made notes on it? I said, yeah. He said, play it through. I said, well, how would you like me to play it? He said, well, you know how I want you to play it. I said, I've done, that's what I'm asking you. He said, just play it. So I played it. He said, that's how I want it.
But as Rick would later say, it was the
Hang on. So I've heard of Rick Wakeman. I feel like maybe his name is in a group, but let's just look him up. Rick Wakeman. What else has he done? He was in Yes. Yes. That's where I know him from. His early sessions included Space Odyssey, among other tracks for David Bowie, and songs by Elton John, Mark Bolan, Cat Stevens, and Lou Reed. In 1970, Wakeman joined the folk rock group The Strawbs, during which his virtuosity gained national press coverage. Yes did the song Owner of a Lonely Heart. It's a great song. Produced by Trevor Horn, I think.
He said, just play. So I played it. He said, that's how I want it.
But is Rick...
That's how I want it. What do you want me to play? You know how I want you to play. No, I don't. That's why I'm asking. Just play. Bleep, bleep, bleep. That's how I want it. Right. That's how they talk. I'm just taking the mickey while I'm pouring myself some more coffee. Y'all, by the way, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account if you want to buy me a coffee, and this coffee was bought by people buying me coffee on Buy Me a Coffee. Buy me a coffee. Continue, please.
I said, I don't. That's why I'm asking you.
I don't.
He said, just play. So
Just
I played
play.
it. He said, that's how I want it.
But as Rick would later say, it was the song itself that made it so special.
It had every single ingredient. I mean, the great thing about David was he was a wonderful melody man, but it wasn't just the melodies. He had great ideas for chord structures and would always throw in the odd surprise when you were least expecting it.
He lifted that chord progression.
For chord structures and would always throw in the odd surprise when you were least expecting it. And that's what was so great about playing his stuff. He'd be teaching you a song and you'd be going along and then suddenly you'd think, oh, I know how this is going to go, and then it would change. Very
I
clever
like that.
guy.
Actually, later on in this interview, Rick Wakeman plays a solo arrangement of the song, and I think it highlights just how beautiful Bowie's melodic and harmonic writing was, perhaps even more so than the original song.
He's good.
As well as Rick's beautiful piano playing, the song also contains some other special ingredients. There's a string quartet, perfectly arranged for the song, and a wonderful recorder line as well.
Their recorders are used so infrequently, and they just
For good reason.
fit in so perfectly with everything else on this.
That is Abbey Road engineer. He also worked with the Beatles. What's his name? Ken Townsend, I think. Is that him? No, it's not. Ken Scott. Ken Scott. Different Ken. Same job.
There's a string quartet, perfectly arranged for the song, and a wonderful recorder line as well.
Their recorders are used so infrequently, and they just fit in so perfectly with everything else on this.
This is how console.
And at the very end, just as the piano fades out, we can hear this telephone ringing in the background. This wasn't actually intended to be there, but was instead the result of a weird accident. Ken Scott, the song's producer and engineer, explains what happened.
It was going great. This was going to be the one. But unfortunately, right by the side of the piano, there was a toilet. And in that toilet was a public phone. Someone got a wrong number and called in halfway through that great take. And we had to stop it. And
That's the best
Bono was
part.
cursing and swearing about it. I then rolled back to the beginning of the tape and started to record again. We got the master, finally. It wasn't until we put the strings on, and they're sustaining at the end, so they go longer than we'd ever really listened before. And as they're going, we suddenly hear this piano come back in, and then we hear the phone ring, and Ronno swearing. We got to keep this. This is just too good.
Yeah,
of course,
keep it.
I had to pull it out really fast because the Beeb would never play what Ronno was saying.
The Beeb. What was he saying?
What? That's why. Fucking bastard. Oh, for fuck's sake.
That's the best
By
part,
the way,
though.
if you made it this...
Yo, when those things happen, when you're recording, keep it. Keep it. Know what I'm saying? It's a blessing. Keep it. Makes you seem brilliant, like David Bowie. Happy accident.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
By the way, if you made it this far, please take a moment to subscribe.
Yeah, I'll be sure to go to David Hartley's page and like and subscribe. But why? Okay, if I was building a recording studio, I wouldn't have a toilet in the live room. With a public phone? That's just bad studio design. In my opinion. Look how skinny he is.
For fuck's sake.
By the way, if you made it this far, please take a moment to subscribe. One key element that was consistent with Bowie's recording process was spontaneity.
I co-produced 4 albums with him, and 95% of the vocals that I did with him were first take, beginning to end. I would get the level, I'd start the tape rolling in record, and what he did that one performance is what you still hear today.
In fact, those string arrangements, which you might expect to be written out by some expert orchestrator, were actually written by Mick Ronson, also known as Ronno, who Bowie believed would be able to do the job.
David said, "Oh, Mick does that, he'll do that." I'd never done it before in my life, So I wrote some string arrangements.
Although the song is now one of Bowie's most well-known songs, it wasn't originally released as a single. Instead, it was just part of the album, Hunky Dory. An album which, like some of his earlier work, at first wasn't so well received.
There was a certain amount of disappointment because this didn't do very well at all when it first came out. Yeah, it was just okay. We did what we wanted to do, it was great, so other people don't get it, that's fine.
It was only when Ziggy Stardust came along did Hunky Dory start to see some traction. And when Bowie toured in following years at the height of Ziggy Stardust, Life on Mars soon became one of the most popular songs on tour. As a result, 2 years later in 1973, RCA Records decided to release Life on Mars as a single. Bowie shot a promotional video for the song, a simple video with him wearing heavy makeup and a turquoise suit.
I love the way he filmed that. It was so bizarre. I'd had no idea he was going to do that. He was going to burn everything out like that, and it was just remarkable. I mean, it's a strange piece of film, but it's quite beautiful.
But there's one more thing. This whole story started as a disappointment. Bowie's song was turned down in favour of My Way, which inspired him to write something similar, Life on Mars. But the legacy of these two songs is very different. My Way became a song Frank Sinatra ended up disliking, unable to shake his association with it, feeling it was self-indulgent and self-serving, and that he was forced to sing everywhere he went. Life on Mars, well, it's just another great song within Bowie's catalogue, and respect and love of the song has just continued to grow over time.
He's never made another album that's ever sounded like Hunky Dory, and he's never ever tried to write another track that sounds like Life on Mars.
Y'all, I want to be sure to go to David Hartley and like and subscribe. Let's check out Hunky Dory. David Bowie really had a fascination with space, I feel like. He did an album called Space Odyssey, the Ziggy Stardust thing, the Man from Outer Space. Wasn't he in a movie called that or something? Oh, I think this is the greatest hits album I had. Ooh, it's been remastered. Oh, Changes is on Hunky Dory. Okay. Oh, Space Odyssey, the Major Tom song is one that I like too. I think that's this one, right? Yeah, I like that one. I think it's really clever. Oh, Let's Dance. I do kind of like this song. It has Stevie Ray Vaughan playing the guitar on it, Y'all, Let's Dance sounds good. I don't think I've really listened to that with headphones or, seriously listened to it, but it sounds really good. Okay, I need to revisit David Bowie. Damn it. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, this song Ziggy Stardust, I don't really like the way it sounds. I'm out of tune. Under pressure. Cool, okay. Wow. It's based on My Way. That's amazing. I had no idea there was a David Bowie Frank Sinatra connection. I never would have thought. Oh, what's that other David Bowie song? Nirvana did a cover of it. It's gonna bug me, I gotta look it up. The Man Who Sold the World? She passed upon the road. Yes. David Bowie. I gotta open my mind to more of that David Bowie. Maybe it was that Ziggy Stardust that turned me off to it. It's just like, it sounds like paper. Anyway, y'all, if you made it this far in the video, give me a like and subscribe maybe, please. Thank you. Thank y'all for watching this with me. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.